We're going back to the days of big hair, neon fashion, cassettes, and VCRs to take a look at the original social hotspot, any mall in the 80s. While social media apps and online shopping keep teens busy today, in the 1980s, kids needed to find things to do, and the mall was the perfect place to pass the time. So picture yourself with no internet or smartphone, and let's spend a day at the mall in the 80s. Whether it was after school or a Saturday afternoon, if you were a kid or a teen in the 80s, the mall was the spot to meet up. The odds of spotting large groups of friends walking around or hanging out at the food court was highly likely. However, unlike today, with the technological wonder of the smartphone, meeting up with friends wasn't as simple as a group text to all agree to be in front of the Gap at noon. In the 80s, a mall meetup was a calculated affair, where friends would have to use the phone to, wait for it, call someone from a landline or payphone to arrange a meeting spot and time. Getting to the mall wasn't always easy, unless you had a bike, which most 80s kids did. You hopped on that neon-colored two-wheeler and headed to meet your friends at the bike rack or crowded parking lot. If you didn't own a bike, there were no Uber or Lyft apps like there are today. Nope, you either walked or hopped on some sort of public transit, or had your parents drop you off and pick you up at a prearranged time. But even back then, that was kind of embarrassing. Now, once everyone's at the mall, what to do first? The arcade, of course, because nothing was more radical than an 80s mall arcade. Popular arcade chains like Gold Mines and Aladdin's Castle were always overflowing with kids all waiting anxiously to stuff quarters into the Pac-Man, Q*bert, and Donkey Kong machines. And if you were old school, pinball machines. Arcades were the ideal social hub, where friends could engage in a little friendly competition trying to get their initials on the list of high scores. The bright neon lights and mixture of non-stop stimulation was an assault to the senses in the best way. Today, arcades are all but extinct, as the video game industry moved from the arcade to home consoles, starting with Atari and Nintendo, and eventually evolving to the modern-day powerhouses like PlayStation and Xbox. The rise of online gaming has now put the arcade in the home, with the ability to play and meet players from around the world. However, it's not all online with the rise of escape rooms, 4D rides, and VR facilities. With a few exceptions, these attractions are as close to the arcade experience as you're going to get today. After the adrenaline rush of high scores, bright screens, and 8-bit soundtracks, next would be a walk around the mall. This was the opportunity to do some serious window shopping, since much like today, most 80s teens didn't have a lot of disposable income. Checking out the latest fashion fads and trends, stopping by popular stores like Fanfare, The Limited, and Merry-Go-Round were all high on the must-check-out list. Of course, for the fashionable broke teen, trying on some high-top Reebok pumps, stonewashed jeans, or if you were really lucky, that awesome red Thriller leather jacket that Michael Jackson made famous, was good incentive to save your allowance or pick up another shift at your part-time job. In the 80s, dressing the part and having just the right accessories to make your outfit pop was a must. For the girls, a set of door knocker earrings, countless bangle bracelets, crimped hair with a hot pink scrunchie, a shoulder-padded jacket, and spandex pants with some bright-colored leg warmers would likely get you a thumbs up from the material girl herself. While it was fitted leather jackets, a sick mullet, ripped stonewashed jeans, an Ocean Pacific t-shirt, high-top Converse, and some red Varney shades for the guys. Today, fashion is a bit more understated. However, big eyelashes and long, colorful nails have made a comeback, seemingly plucked right out of the 80s. But the glory days of brands like Esprit and LA Gear were replaced with Juicy Couture and Skechers, and slides with socks becoming a thing. Okay, jump out of the 80s for a second and use the modern technology of whatever device you're on to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Please and thank you. Now, let's get back to the video. After getting your look just right, the next 80s mall stop is the record store. Popping into Sam Goody or Camelot Music and making your way up and down the aisles, flipping through the albums and cassettes, searching for the latest Cyndi Lauper, Def Leppard, or Duran Duran album was always on the agenda. If you didn't want to fork over all your cash to buy your favorite band's latest album, you could just grab a 45 or cassette single of the latest radio hit. Poster-covered walls with the most popular bands was common in record stores, along with sprawling displays with hundreds of records on each shelf, creating makeshift hallways. Today, finding a record store in the mall is for the most part a thing of the past, as virtually every piece of music ever created is now available on your smartphone with Spotify or Apple Music. No matter the era, spending the day at the mall required energy, and every 80s teen made sure they had a few bucks for the food court, even if it was just enough for an order of fries that you and your friends would share. But with all the options lined up side by side, one problem was trying to figure out what exactly you wanted. Classics like Mrs. Fields cookies were perfect for that quick sugar rush and a mouthful of freshly baked chocolate chip goodness. Or maybe a few scoops from Haagen-Dazs, because yes, in the 80s there were actual HD outlets in the food court. However, the food court wasn't just about the sweets. Just about every popular chain was represented, whether popping over to A&W for a quick teen burger, a couple of slices and a Coke over at Sbarro Pizza, or a nice juicy Philly cheesesteak at the Great Steak and Potato Company, the food court was more than the food. It was also a great spot to hang out, catch up, show off what you bought, and socialize with friends. Of course, the food court hasn't disappeared entirely. Today, many supercenters, plazas, and strip malls house many of today's popular restaurant chains. On the plus side, the options of today are a lot more diverse, with Japanese chains like Ito serving up sushi and ramen noodle franchises popping up everywhere. You're more likely to see a pack of teens with bubble tea or something from Starbucks than an A&W root beer float. Oh, and in the 80s, no one had to worry about posting a pic of that food court pretzel to Instagram. Once done snacking, maybe a movie would be next up. Most major malls in the 80s either had a movie theater inside or on the property. A matinee feature like Gremlins, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, E.T., or The Terminator was a surefire way to make a few hours fly by. Movies were epic events for teens in the 80s where you could go with friends or take a date. Other than having enough cash, the only problem was deciding which movie you were all going to see. Once you decided, there was no app to buy your ticket or assign seating. You had to wait in line to get your ticket, then line up at the concession stand to get your popcorn, and then grab your seats, hoping you got there early enough not to have to sit in the front row. Today, the movie theater is becoming a dying breed, especially the mall cinema. With a touch of your finger, you can bring up countless streaming services on your phone, laptop, or smart TV, and boom, instant home theater. After the movie, where to next? A quick stop over at Toys R Us or KB Toys to check out the new Super Mario Bros. Video game for that brand new Nintendo NES, which was on display alongside all the latest toys of the decade. Toy aisles were filled with the latest Star Wars, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, G.I. Joe, and Masters of the Universe action figures. Of course, plenty of Barbies, Cabbage Patch Kids, and Care Bears could be found on the shelves as well. But if the toy store wasn't your thing, visiting the mall's pet store to check out, pet, and fall in love with all the adorable puppies and kittens was a must. After reluctantly leaving the pet store, a stop at Radio Shack to check out the Walkmans, Ghetto Blasters, and Polaroid cameras was always a good spot to get ideas for things to put on your Christmas list. When it was time to sit and relax a bit, the edge of the mall's fountain, which every 80s mall seemed to have as its centerpiece, was the perfect spot to make a wish with the toss of a penny, watch the mall patrons, and chat and gossip with friends. Before the invention of smartphones, the mall was the social media of the day, long before the term existed. In the 80s, gathering and chatting in person was the main way to socialize. And if you had to tell one of your friends, who was grounded and had to stay home, about the Goonies VHS tape you just picked up, you'd have to use the payphone, because again, no cells. Today, you'd be hard-pressed to find something that you can't do online, from shopping to sharing your life on social media. And as technology evolves, the easier it is to use, with the explosion of QR codes being a perfect example of how much simpler it is to shop and save online. Now, before calling it a day, find a few more quarters for a quick stop at the photo booth to take some serious pics with friends. This was a perfect way to remember the day, the 80s version of selfies perhaps. With a few photobombs by friends standing outside the booth and popping their heads in, and several poses with probably more people that should be in a booth that size later, the instant photo strip was a fun reminder of the day at the mall. Full, exhausted, and broke meant it was time to call it a day and say goodbye to your friends before hitting the exits and heading home. For 80s kids, the days of heading to the mall to grab a hot pretzel, some Bugle Boy acid wash jeans, and a Guns N' Roses cassette are long gone. The ultimate 80s hangout spot has been replaced by DoorDash, Amazon, and Spotify. Of course, the mall hasn't vanished completely, with giants like the Mall of America still in operation. However, many of the smaller local malls have closed their doors for good and are no longer the social hangout they once were. It seems technology has made the mall a relic and created a new ultimate all-in-one hotspot. your very own home. Stick around for another trip through the decades and watch more Now and Then videos. Here are a couple we think you'll like.